Chapter 29, A Major Leaguer. In 1945, we were a Jim Crow nation. It was nothing to be proud of, but that's the way it was. In the South, everything was segregated: schools, buses, restaurants, hotels, even phone booths. The rest of the country wasn't as blatant about it, but there was plenty of separation and prejudice. Those who approved of Jim Crow segregation said that things were separate but equal. They were separate, all right, but they were rarely equal, and they certainly were not on the ball field. When it came to the national pastime, which is what baseball is called, there were the major leagues, the minor leagues, and there were the Negro Leagues for ball, ball players of color. The major leaguers played in fine ballparks, traveled first class, and slept in decent hotels. The Negro leaguers, well, they put up with a lot. Shoddy conditions, no ballparks of their own. They rented what they could find, travel any way they could make it, and usually lower pay, except for the incredible Satchel Paige, who in 1942 managed to make more money than anyone in the league. One thing the Negro Leagues did have an abundance of was talent. When black players played all-star games against white teams, they usually won. Just think about it, and you can see how insane the system was. All the good players and no one letting them play. In the majors, there were plenty of whites who understood that, and there were plenty of whites without prejudice. One of them was general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Branch Rickey. Rickey decided he was going to change baseball. He was going to make it the national pastime for all Americans, but he knew it wouldn't be easy. Fighting prejudice never is. Rickey was the right man for the job. He found he founded baseball's system of farm teams back in the 1920s. That means he came up with the idea of taking over minor league teams, which had been independently owned just like major league clubs, and using them to develop ball players for major leagues. Branch Rickey was used to scouting good players. He knew how to pick them. He also was a shrewd businessman. Black ball players then were a pool of inexpensive talent. They played an exciting, hustling kind of baseball, and they would bring a huge new black audience to the majors. If Rickey was going to change baseball and some of the nation's attitudes by integrating the Brooklyn Dodgers, he knew he would have to find a ball player who was not only a great athlete, but even more important, a great person. When he found Jack Roosevelt Robinson, he had just the man he was looking for. Jackie Robinson was a spectacular athlete. He had earned letters and trophies in 4 sports at the University of California at Los Angeles, UCLA. He was very smart and did well in school, and he had the strength to fight for his beliefs. As an officer in the Army, Robinson refused to move when a bus driver asked him to sit in the back of the bus where blacks were expected to sit. That got Jackie in trouble, but he wouldn't back down. He faced a court martial, a military court, for disobedience, but the young lieutenant had acted within his rights. The Army dropped the charges against him. Some people thought he was a troublemaker, but Branch Rickey was impressed. Here was a man of courage, he believed. Rickey asked Robinson to come to New York. He said he wanted to talk about a new Negro team. Then in his office, Branch Rickey told Jackie the truth. He wanted him to break baseball's color line. Both men knew the first black ball player in the major leagues wouldn't have it easy. Ricky told Robinson that if he wanted the job, no matter what happened to him, he had to promise not to fight back. He would have to take the abuse and hold his tongue. At all times, he would have to be a gentleman. Mr. Ricky, do you want a ball player who's afraid to fight back? I want a ball player with the guts enough not to fight back, said Ricky. Robinson had never backed away from a fight. He knew that if someone insulted him, it would be very difficult to do what Ricky was asked, to turn the other cheek. But he agreed. He gave his word. He was going to do something bigger than anything he'd done before. It was more important than his feelings. It was for the people, for his people, and for all people. The two men talked for 3 hours. Still, neither of them realized how much courage Jackie Robinson would actually need. He had tough times ahead of him. He was going to be spiked, spat on, sent death threats, hit with pitches, and called awful names. How would you have responded? Branch Rickey began by sending Jackie Robinson to Brooklyn's leading farm team, the Montreal Royals. The Royals manager, Clay Hopper, had grown up with prejudice. He had never had a black friend. He begged Branch Rickey not to make him coach Jackie Robinson. Rickey knew he was a good coach. He told him to do his job. By the end of the season, Hopper had learned a lesson. Most prejudice comes from ignorance. He told Robinson, "You're a real ball player and a gentleman. It's been wonderful having you on our team." On April 15th, 1947, Jackie Robinson, up from Montreal, batted in Brooklyn for the first time as a major leaguer. He put out 4 times that day. He didn't do much better the rest of the week. Had Ricky made a mistake? Then, when the Dodgers went to Philadelphia to play the Phillies, even Ricky was stunned by what happened. The Phillies manager, Ben Chapman, spewed hate language and encouraged players to do the same. At no time in my life have I heard such racial venom and dugout abuse to, that Ben sprayed on Robinson that night, said one of Branch Rickey's aides. I could scarcely believe my ears, said Robinson. Jackie Robinson took a deep breath and kept his word. The abuse wasn't all verbal. Runners were sliding and cutting him with their spikes. Pitchers were throwing at his head. It was too much for his teammates, even those who hadn't wanted a black player on the club. Sometimes actions bring unexpected results. The poor sportsmanship of some other teams brought the Dodgers together. They were behind their new teammate now. Soon Robinson was swinging and connecting, and when it came to base running, hardly anyone has ever done it the way Jackie Robinson did. He gave pitchers the jitters, and when he stole home, well, have you ever seen anyone steal home? There isn't much in baseball that's more exciting. Robinson was a fantastic base stealer. In his rookie season, Jackie Robinson finished first in the league in stolen bases and second in runs scored. He tied for the team lead in home runs. Dodgers fans began cheering and cheering. The nation's most important sports paper, the Sports News, which had said that Ricky was unwise to bring a black to the majors, named him Rookie of the Year. In September, the Brooklyn Dodgers won the National League pennant, and at the end of the season, Branch Rickey told his star Jackie, You're on your own now. You can be yourself." Robinson no longer had to keep quiet, and he didn't. Jackie Robinson had won the affection and respect of his fellow baseball players and of the nation. He was the first. He took the punishment. He made it easy for those who followed. Baseball was now the national pastime for all people.